All right, so here's the stock dash. Tossing that on the scale.
19 pounds.
So that's the carbon dash, the shell.
So yeah, 4.1.
4.1 pounds. So about 4 pounds. At 22 total pounds lost from the stock dash and all the components.
Yeah.
So 22 total pounds is coming out, and that includes installing the carbon dash.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up guys, how you doing? We're back at the lab with Kyle. We're gonna do a quick sequential install update video. We got the dash out of the car, we got a bunch of parts out of the car, so we're just gonna kind of walk you guys through that and see what he's been up to.
Mick and I have found that through the install process where our clearances for our forward bracket of our shift assembly, our clearances were really tight because the dash actually came really close here, and this is a pivoting part. So as opposed to us modifying the existing dash, Nick had already ordered his carbon dash that he was going to put in his car, and so actually just a couple days ago we had decided to move forward with installing his full custom carbon dash, and so that'll actually allow us to have more clearance for this assembly to go in. That's kind of what I've been trucking on the last couple days while we're waiting for a custom driveline to be finished up.
Yeah, so thankfully I actually had a full carbon dash in storage. It's probably been there for at least the last year and a half. I've had it for quite a while. So when Kyle hit me up and he was like, hey, we got to modify this stock dash, I immediately was like, well, I think this is a perfect time to go ahead and put that carbon dash in. So that's the stock dash. We haven't weighed that thing yet, but it is pretty dang heavy, man. I'm actually really excited to see how much that weighs versus the carbon dash.
Yeah.
And then everything else that came out as well that's part of the dash, all these little parts and pieces. These probably don't weigh a ton, but there's definitely some weight to them. So we're going to weigh everything, of course. The carbon dash we'll show you guys is it literally weighs nothing. But it's cool because it gives Kyle the opportunity to mount all of these parts and pieces pretty much exactly where he wants on that carbon dash. So the original tachometer there is going to be going back in because we don't have a standalone ECU. We're on the stock ECU. The lap timer is going to be able to be mounted, pretty much exactly where he wants to put it. And then the traction control button here. Yeah, there's that. We're going to mount that in the dash. And then the start-stop button and the key, where the key's mounted as well. So you see that. So it's pretty cool. I'm really excited to get the carbon dash in there, and it's going to be a massive weight savings. But it's like the icing on the cake. It's going to look so dang cool. I think Kyle's pretty excited to work on that thing and put that in the car.
Yeah, because if you come over here, I'll show you what Nick's talking about. This here.
Ooh, unwrap it. Ooh.
So right away, you can see that we are starting with a blank slate. So we do get to add all these custom features. So we'll cut this void in so that his stock dash display basically cups right in there like the old one did. This is kind of nice that they left this out because essentially usually your standalone ECUs have a display and you would only cut out the back part. However, ours will snake in. It'll basically fasten the same way that the stock one did.
And then at some point in the future, if I do go to a standalone ECU, I'm sure we could fill all this space in that we're going to cut out, and it'll be fine. But for now, no standalone ECU, so this is going to be pretty dang cool. And it's just like a nice matte carbon finish. Yeah, lap timer there.
Be trick.
So we're going to mount that lap timer pretty much wherever we want. That's so cool.
Dude, you could, if you wanted to, you could like recess that thing in there and like make a trim piece on the bottom side.
But I like it to be able to face me.
I think the adjustability would be nice too.
But yeah, that'll be nice. We'll get the Garmin mounted in there. Another really cool thing.
The defrost.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about the heating element. So we've kind of collectively decided that we're not going to remove the AC system. That might be something that we do, in the distant future. But for now, the AC system is going to stay just for ease of moving forward with the project and the, the complication that comes with removing the AC. However, you guys can see the dash is out. So you want to hop in there?
Yeah.
So we got the dash out. and you can see that the heating element is this big, massive box right here. All the different vents. So we are going to remove the heating element. We're going to remove all those vents. I don't know what this thing weighs, but we're guessing maybe like 20 pounds.
I can't tell because I can't see it. And I see that there's motors in there to actuate all the vents to open and close. There's actual physical motors attached to everything. So those motors are heavier than plastic. So it's hard for me to tell without actually having a visual on the full shape of the apparati that are moving them.
But we think that it's pretty heavy.
Yeah, and it takes up a lot of space in general. So just that alone.
So Kyle came up with the plan. We're going to remove it, but one of the main issues here in Washington, especially, is we use the defrost function quite a bit to make sure that the windshield's clear. You know, you're out on track on a rainy day, whatever it is.
There's a lot of humidity and moisture in the air.
Exactly. Yeah. So he's thinking we're going to get a fan, and he's going to install a fan. Why don't you tell us just a little bit about that?
So basically, in my past race cars, I've had cars just like this, and I have found that, just like what Nick's talking about, I always end up needing something to wipe the window, or if I'm breathing extra hard, if we're sweating extra hard. And this was years ago that I was working on this gutted car, but it was a Volkswagen GTI, a 1995, and I had it turbocharged. It was super cool. The amount of heat that was created inside of a gutted structure like this is quite a bit. And so what I ended up doing is I found a 12-volt fan, basically, that would have plugged into a cigarette lighter, and basically it has its own heating element, kind of like a toaster has. It heats up a little tiny coil. The technology has gotten way cooler nowadays, but you can actually get little 12-volt fans that heat up just the ambient air. So what we're going to do is we're going to get a small profile of a little fan that we can get that would normally plug into your cigarette lighter, and we're just going to give Nick a little on-off switch for that fan, and it'll basically be, localized to his viewing area, his viewing field, and we're going to put that and recess it into the carbon dash. And so that'll be a standalone, basically defrost unit that won't use any of the
That will literally weigh nothing.
Yeah, like less than half a pound, or no, probably about half a pound. But the point being is that all this still gets to go, and it's not going to be using the heater core that comes in the car. It won't be flushing the fluid through it.
Yeah, so that's pretty exciting. So we get to save a bunch of weight there, and then we're still solving the issue of needing some air and needing some defrost on those humidity days.
And then on the far side here, if you guys look kind of close, right here, that would be the evap core for the AC. And so it is also a big unit. I mean, it's rather large, and that would save weight. However, through experience, I have found that it does integrate into the serpentine system, being basically you need to modify the mechanics of the engine in order to remove the system properly. And we could do that. However, at this stage, we would like to just get through what we started with and be able to test this transmission without modifying other mechanics of the engine, so that we can really focus on, what we're working on now. And then once that's all copacetic and working cherry, we could move forward with something like that, especially since we have access to everything now. However, even the little bit of extra weight, we talked about it being on the passenger side, is a bonus, because it equals out when you have a driver and no passenger when you're on the track. So that will stay, but again, the weight difference that's providing over this whole heater core is negligible.
Yeah.
So,
and then removing the heater core sounds like a much easier process than
straightforward
doing the AC. And we got so much going on and still so much left to do that we just decided, let's go ahead and remove the heater core. Let's not mess with the AC at this point.
Right.
We did talk a little bit about trying to thin some of these wires that you guys see, and removing any unnecessary wiring.
Yeah.
Mostly just from the seat forward. From here forward, we're not going to mess with anything in the rear yet. Again, like I said, we just have a lot to do and a lot going on. So that's all stuff that can be done, you know, in the future. So he's going to try to clean up this wiring from the front forward into the dash and pretty much just remove anything that's not being used. But it's going to be pretty cool, man. I'm really excited to actually have the carbon dash in here. I mean, this was like a long-term plan. You know, I wasn't even considering installing this thing probably until like next year or the year after. Like I said, I have it in storage. I had the opportunity to get one at a pretty good price. So I went for it, and I've had it for quite a long time. But as soon as Kyle said that we had to modify the dash to install the sequential, it's like, hey, man, that's the time.
Now's the time.
Let's do it. You got the dash off anyways, and then it really gives us an opportunity to clean everything up in here and make it look super nice. And I mean, Kyle's going to do a really sick job. I mean, just wait. This dash with all the components on it are going to look so cool.
And I mean, I love things like just preparing yourself, being kind to yourself is what I call it, like from just planning ahead. And, you know, if somebody ever had to come back in here and something's unplugged, for instance, I just try to label things as they come out of the vehicle, so that, you know, if it's an ignition push button and it's the ignition key fob, we want to know that we're reusing things, where they went, or where they didn't go. And because we knew at one point this car worked just fine without certain systems, so being kind to myself, I go through even things that aren't used, and I say that they're not used, so that when I'm going through the thinning process of removing wiring, like I've done on other people's race cars, I just don't, I'm not cutting the wires, you know, chasing them back to their original source. So like, you know that Nick from previous videos doesn't have any headlights. Well, we still have a headlight switch. As opposed to just cutting the wire and leaving it in between the space, we're going to snake it back through and we're going to remove that, because at the end of the day, that's metal, it's copper wire, it equals weight. And the more and more we take of that out, end up having a big bundle of wire, we are saving weight, but also it's safer because we don't have, you know, energy running to open-ended wires or open-ended systems. It is, a vehicle will run better if you don't have dead-end systems and you just unplug the actual harness itself. The computer doesn't have to process as much information, or it's not getting fake information. So I would always encourage any one of my clients or future clients, or just race car enthusiasts or racers in general, to go the extra mile when it comes to your wiring, because doing this type of stuff up front will be kind to yourself later on, and that's why we're doing it. Yeah.
So we will certainly weigh the all the heating element stuff that comes out there. So that'll be in a future video. But I think we're going to go ahead and try to weigh the dash and all these components real quick and let you guys know what the stock dash and all, you know, the vents and all the just the random stuff that we've already pulled out weighs. So we'll come back to that here in a minute once we get that weighed. All right. So here's the stock dash. Tossing that on the scale.
19 pounds.
So that dash right there weighs 19 pounds.
That's crazy. And now I'll go grab the other one for you.
That is heavy, man. I don't even know.
Well, no, not to mention.
I don't even know if the other
this isn't even the whole thing.
No, this isn't everything. We're going to weigh all this
everything
other stuff
taken
too.
out of it. Yeah.
So just the shell of the dash weighs 19 pounds.
Okay. And I'm going to guess that this one weighs 3.2 pounds.
I don't know, man, if even. Thing's literally like air.
2.2 pounds.
2.2, okay. So that's the carbon dash, the shell. What is it, Tux?
195. So, yeah, 4.1.
4.1 pounds. So about 4 pounds.
I should have stuck with my 3.2.
Yeah. It just literally feels like nothing.
Yeah, it's because it's so big, it's a mind fuck.
I know.
Yeah. Wow. That's freaking incredible.
Are you sure that thing's even 4 pounds? I'd try that again, man. I don't know.
It's just because, I mean, if you were able to put all the weight in one spot, it makes sense when you try to hold it with one, like one finger.
Yeah. So 4 pounds.
What I'm really excited about is taking the evap core out. No, sorry, not the evap, but the heater core.
Yeah.
Just by looking at the scale of that and the amount of components that are assembled on it, and the fact that it holds liquid, with us rerouting it back through the firewall, not only are you removing the plastic component, but his system will run on less liquid. When you think about it, you're removing a void of space that has fluid flowing through it. That fluid doesn't just disappear, it sits in there. So by removing that, basically the bucket that holds water, we're removing the water as well. And so that when we do refill the antifreeze into the radiator, there's gonna be less antifreeze that the car will take. That's less weight too.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
There you go. Less weight, that's what we like. Okay, so for the two shells, you got the stock shell and you got the carbon shell. We're at a net 15 pounds. So then all this other stuff that we weigh is just on top of that.
Keep in mind, the only way to weigh things is when you have it out of your car. It takes effort.
Yeah, right.
So us just telling you guys this stuff
Took a lot of effort.
Well, yeah, but it gives people the edge. So
Yep.
just know that.
Well, it's like when I did a big strip of my interior, I weighed every single component and I
Yeah.
logged it.
Yeah.
So I still get people to hit me up and they're like, "Hey, what does the glove box weigh on the passenger side?" And I'm like, "Hold on, 1 sec," and I tell them
I'll go tell
exactly
you.
what it weighs.
Yeah.
And then they can kind of assess, like, "Huh, yeah, that's worth it or not worth it." So we got all these other little components that we're tossing on the scale. And if for some reason anybody wanted to buy the stock dash and all the components that
Yeah.
come with it, like, I mean, I'll sell it
It is
to
a
you.
full assembly, and I've purposely tried to be very careful with it, so nothing's even been scratched. And I've labeled everything so that you know where it goes. So driver's side, top, bottom. So it can get confusing pretty quick, but I've tried to make it so it's easy for somebody if they did want
Yeah,
to.
so if for some reason you guys
utilize
want
that.
Let me know.
We've gotten over 2 pounds. That's heavy.
Yeah.
Electronics are heavy. That's why I'm excited about all the different motors that are in that heater core. It's going to add up really quick. Hardware. Sorry, I
is
don't have the
also very
tear for
heavy.
this bag, but it's about 1.5 ounces. So 16 ounces would be another pound. So we're about 4 pounds. We're
Yeah.
at point.
We'll call that
0.9.
4.
Yeah, it's 4 pounds.
We'll call that 4 pounds. So we're 4 pounds right there.
19. That's 19
So now we're at a net 19.
minus. So I'll put this stuff back up there.
That's done.
More of Nick's handiwork.
That's not bad. I forgot I Sikaflex that stuff on
Yeah,
there.
it was actually a good choice. I was happy to see you did that.
Yeah, that Sikaflex is good stuff.
This stuff's heavy. I told you that.
Oh yeah, we didn't weigh this last
This
time.
was in there. Still.
So we'll call that
Again,
3.
3 pounds. Yeah.
So that's 3 pounds. So we're at 22 total pounds lost from the stock dash and all the
Just-
components.
Yeah.
So 22 total pounds is
Safe.
coming out, and that includes installing the carbon dash.
Yeah. Exactly.
Pretty dang good.
Yeah.
That's not bad at all.
So just by the size of scale of that part in there, I would like to put a guess at it now. With the fluid removed.
You're talking about the heater element?
Yeah.
The heater
I'm going to say
core?
that's an additional 24 pounds
That'd be massive.
alone. So we'd be at 46 pounds.
That's huge.
That's a quarter. That's a quarter of a 200-pound human.
Yeah. And that
That's
is on top
horsepower.
of this car already weighing 3,000 pounds
Yeah.
with a half tank of fuel in it. The last time this car was corner balanced was pretty much right on at 3,000 pounds with a half tank of fuel. So, you know, now we're talking about another maybe 45 something pounds.
And Tux isn't surprised.
No, he
Not at
doesn't.
all.
He doesn't even care.
Tux
He's
isn't
like-
surprised at all.
He's like, when you're at Union Speed Lab, man, pulling 50 pounds out of a car, that's nothing. I'm not. That doesn't even get me excited.
Scoot, scoot,
Yeah.
scoot, scoot.
Sick, man. Thanks for weighing all that.
Yeah. We do it before and after this too, because we're gonna have the 2-piece soon.
True. So we did have to do a custom drive shaft. So the carbon one weighs
13.8.
13.8 pounds. So we'll reference this
I gotta
video
write that down.
when we weigh the custom one that's going in. Well, I know this carbon drive shaft versus the stock 6-speed manual drive shaft that came out of this car was a 12-pound difference.
So
Oh, we actually have it sitting here. Oh, well, there you go.
But that's actually pretty cool, Nick, because that means you're still net less, even with the new drive shaft in the center of the vehicle.
That's true.
You will be net quite a bit less, and we haven't even talked about the heater core yet. So again, the awesomeness of having a serviceable 2-piece drive shaft with less stress on our awesome transmission, we will have less weight in the car overall.
for
and
sure.
it'll be out of the center of the vehicle because the heater core sits right above the bell housing, basically. So that's pretty cool, actually.
No, it's super
That's
cool,
good
man.
balance. And that's something to keep in mind as you're taking your cars apart and you're starting to save weight. You have to remember balance. So if you're gonna take weight out of the back, take it out of the front. Because we've had ABS systems, and the cars nowadays, the really new ones, can measure, you know, basically a distribution of weight and how many G-forces are on each corner. So traction control and stuff will freak out if you don't have an equal balance, and if you don't reprogram your computer to recognize that balance. It'll drive sporadically because it's constantly trying to compensate for something that's not there. So something to keep in mind is that if you're gonna start taking weight out, don't stop. You go all the way to the end, go back to front or left to right, and think about the person that's sitting in the car, even though you're not in it. It's about balance and where you take it away from. Because just earlier we were talking about how the AC unit, like the evaporator over there, that'll stay in, and that's okay because it's on the right side of the car, because we want this balance, constantly trying to stay balanced. Even though we're removing weight, we do have to be cautious of where we're picking it out from. So just something to think about as you go through that process yourselves.
Yeah, and a lot of you guys know on the E9X series cars here, it's really easy to pull weight out of the rear. I mean, you can get a couple 100 pounds out of the rear of the car pretty easily. But to get weight out of the front of the car, you know, obviously you see what we're doing, pulling the dash out, pulling the heater core. It's not as easy to get weight out of the front of the car. So it's kind of cool that we're doing this and we're getting some weight out of the front. So anyways, take care, guys. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned, but we're just happy to do a little quick update. We're moving along. This car is going to be driving with that Sequential here soon enough with the carbon dash. So, all right, guys, take care.
Peace.
Peace.